YouTube stream. We just went on YouTube. Hi, everyone. Welcome to eLearnChat, where talk is knowledge. And we've got with us Ian Gaither from Montreal, though originally from St. Louis, Missouri. So he's going to be our guest today. And we are going to start on this shot. So I'm going to cue up the intro video, and we're going to start the show. We're running a little bit late. We had a Skype issue. We had 2 Skype issues. But anyway, we're going to start the show recording in 3, 2, and 1. Hi, everyone. Welcome to eLearnChat, where talk, it's knowledge. Today, we've got a lot of knowledge to share with a new product to boot. Joining me is Linda Joy from Colorado. Not originally,
Hello.
but she's our American Brit German. It's kind of an interesting combo.
Yes.
Were you born in America?
No, I'm an American born abroad.
Okay.
So I was born in England.
Yep.
But of American parents.
Yep. And then grew up in England and speaks German fluently. You probably speak French too, knowing you.
Oh, I did at one time, but
Yep.
I've lost all of that.
I did too, but I've lost more than that. So anyway. We are ready to start the show right now. We are back, and joining us in that center position, the position of influence and power, is Ian Gaither. He is our guest today. He's an instructional designer. You've done a lot of things, actually. So tell us a little bit about you, Ian.
Yep, I'm an instructional systems designer. I've worked in a lot of different fields over time. Aerospace, medical, doing soft skills training. And started my own company back in 2009, and recently, in the last few months, have started collaborating with a programmer on a project to try to alleviate some of the pain that we experience around production and storyboarding.
It's hard to believe pain in that area of all things. No, none of us feel that pain, do we? It is painful sometimes. It's painful because the storyboarding process itself isn't that hard. It's getting other people to understand it, where the problems reside. And you and I talked earlier about this, and it's a hard one to crack. It's really hard to get everybody on. Some people are visual, some people are verbal, some people like to read it, and getting that all in one script so that they get it. It's tricky. It's tricky, but you guys came up with a pretty good solution, and it looks pretty cool. I hear you're going to share some of that pretty soon too. Show us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'd love to. So, I mean, just as a background, I mean, I always thought that storyboarding would be fun, and that if you saw the making of Star Wars, that was the first time I saw storyboarding, where they're making little cards.
Yep.
And it's all the conceiving of the new ideas and putting it out there, and so when I got into instructional design, I thought it's going to be like that. It's going to be all about this kind of just pure creativity and stuff. But as we got into it, and as we started doing projects, I realized that it ends up actually being a lot of logistics to manage. As you were mentioning, it is getting everybody on the same page, and it's getting all those bits moving in the right direction together. So I'll share my screen with you now.
Oh, sure.
Hopefully this will work out.
And Ian, you have always said, let technology do the heavy lifting and let humans do the fine tuning. So that's what you've done.
That's right, and that really is the heart of it, in a way that there's too much human work, I find, in collaboration, and so when I started collaborating with Eve, Rick, you know Eve,
yes,
and he really, just after listening to me complain about how hard it is to just get the logistical aspect together and managing all the bits. came up with I think a very, I'd say elegant solution to managing it. And can you see my screen right now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I guess the first proviso is that what we're looking at right now is, it is not released. It's something where we are developing and testing. It's a viable product, but it's something we're seeking feedback from people on. We're in that kind of phase of development, and I'm using it on a real project, but we're really looking for feedback. So if anybody out there watching is interested, we'd love to have your feedback. And so what I'm looking at here actually is a screen with various projects. So we can create different projects. Project basically being a curriculum or a set of curricula. And if I just jump into one here, we're looking at a curriculum or a curriculum in progress for it could be one or more courses. And it serves actually two purposes. And when you're in that, one of my favorite parts of development is when you're working with SMEs and building the initial outline of the course. And so we might, very often you find you're making new things and then moving them around in sequence and saying, okay, I've made this new lesson here, maybe this goes in this module, and then I've got another lesson here, and actually, you know what, actually this probably belongs in here. I don't know if you're tracking, I'm moving things around. Do you actually see motion happening?
Yes.
Yes.
You do? Okay, very good. And so that process of building that structure together at the beginning, I find what happens is you do that, and then you get into more development of individual storyboards, and then sometimes that structure changes, but it's a pain to keep it updated and keep it linked to the storyboard. So what we've done is that we've made it so that this structure then becomes the launch point for the individual storyboard. So here I'm looking, each one of these is a storyboard for a lesson. And from the top level here, we can see that there's a number of slides, and that these slides are in different states. So there's a workflow behind here, and I can see that 0 are ready for production, and there are various ones that are in different states of progress. If I jump into one lesson now, and here I'm loading up. This is just a sample lesson, and we've got a structure on the left here, which is basically like a slide browser or navigator, where you can sort of make slides and move them around and jump to various slides in your storyboard. And then within a slide, what we've done, let's zip this up so we can have more space here, is that we've got a visual. In this case, this is for a course that we already went through the very rough work. We did the, sort of wireframes and sketches, and we actually started to make some lessons. So we have screen types here. This is an objective screen, for instance, and I can see the image in large as an example screen, and we've defined then areas on the screen where different content is going to go. So here I've got a visual area, and here I've got an instructional text area, and up here is a title area. And you can see as I'm clicking around that it's jumping to various places in the storyboard. So what this really is, and the same down here, I can navigate by the words. And so what this is doing is providing a kind of internal navigation within a single page to jump to a place in the storyboard. And the reason we want to do that is because the actual storyboard can involve lots of different people giving lots of different inputs. Right? We could have a subject matter expert. We could have a graphics person. We could have another instructional designer. We could have a quality assurance, and all these people coming in. And so we might actually put a lot of things into our storyboard. And by allowing them to jump directly to this aspect, they can see what their part is. For instance, I'm the designer, the visual designer. I'm going to jump to the visual area. And likewise, we've got a filtering system. So we have different types of things in the storyboard. So for instance, text content is something that a copy editor is going to want to see. Production notes are things that, say, a programmer is going to want to see. Guidelines can be things like standards. So we might embed standards into the storyboard themselves, and then media would be something that a graphic developer would want to see. So we can apply a filter, and let's see if we're just a media person, I might turn everything off except the media aspects, so that when I come into a storyboard, all I really want to see is the media request. Let's turn these back on. And so this is in this case, what I've actually done is I've embedded a template. So we have a template building system. And the idea is that what you're seeing here is not necessarily how every storyboard should be. It's that I find that different content requires different types of storyboards. Yes. Right, and I find it's not one size fits all, where you can just have one thing for your on-screen text and one thing for your narration, one thing for your production. Different types require different things. I'll jump over to, this is a screen that, for instance, would have it's sort of an explorer screen where it's an overview of different elements on a software screen. And so here we've put links to the different areas, and to each one of these different areas. So if I go to hotspot area 1, you can see it's highlighted there, and the appropriate text and the writing standard. So from my template, I've created a writing standard that I want to see. Let's say I'm giving this to another instructional designer. I want them to follow a very strict standard in here about how things should be written, so that we have, we might have 2-3 people writing, we want one style. Yes. And for this storyboard, we've created a spot for each one of these. So here's hotspot area 2, I can jump to hotspot area 3. And this is very different from just having one big box where you would put all the text. The idea being that it's, like you were saying, Rick, it's about getting people on the same page and making it understandable. So for different projects, we might come up with a different type of template to hopefully achieve that.
Well, what I like about this is that in Word, this is hard to reproduce.
Yeah.
It's hard, and that's oftentimes we're using either PowerPoint or Word. PowerPoint's even worse in some respects because it suffers in the text area or the notes area or the navigation area, for that matter. It's good for the visuals, but it's not that good for the rest. So here you have different approaches to getting. I have one question to ask you, which has popped up almost at the beginning because I started salivating. Can you generate a document from all this, or like a PDF?
We will. So, as I mentioned, we're what we call a minimal viable product. So it's a very stable, product, but with we don't have all the features that we want. So that is definitely something that's on the roadmap, so that you could output, a standard document.
Yep, that'd be good. Because some people like that. They want to read it, or they want to have a backup of it, or whatever else. But this is nice, and it also runs very fast. I'm just watching the things moving. Everything's going pretty quickly.
It does. It is performant, and so. We're trying. The word Xunto itself is actually, I think you'd pronounced it as in Portuguese.
I said it's Xunto. Yeah.
Xunto would be Portuguese for together, and with an X, it's Galician. But we like the word because it is trying to get everybody together and all the parts together in one place. So I find one problem is, for instance, in commenting. When you have different ISDs, instructional designers, or different experts, or whoever, you're getting an email over here and a text over here and a Slack over there, and then what is it about? Like, see page 10 in page 10 in your storyboard, and so they're already separate. I have to go and piece together page 10, this storyboard, and go find it and go look it up.
Yep.
And so we've integrated a comment system right in here, so that. If someone has an issue, let's say someone has an issue with the writing standard, they can write, and there's the classic @ system where you can either ask a specific person. I want to ask this guy, is this the standard we use. And this keeps it all together, and he's going to get an email informing him of that, and he can come back and respond in here. But we put a task system on it because one thing I find is one of the things that keeps storyboards from moving forward very often is there's unresolved issues, and it's getting all those issues resolved that allows you to finally say, okay, we can actually make this thing. So we put a kind of task system where finally someone can come back and say, okay, I like the response, the issue's resolved, and we can move forward.
One thing I like about what you're showing is you're showing just one script out of possible thousands and thousands for one client or multiple clients.
Right.
So it's all at your fingertips whenever you need it.
It's all here, nice. and we've integrated with a mind towards the project manager, who's I find is project manager is always going nuts, especially on an e-learning project, because if you're not like I find the instructional designer ends up playing a project management role very often because you're the one who really knows what's going on, or you're running around trying, and the project manager, the best they can do is say, okay, how complete are we? How far away are we? So what we've done is we've integrated a workflow system that's baked in, and this is actually a per slide workflow. So I'm on this slide, and I can say that I'm reviewing the storyboard right now, and when I'm reviewed, I can say it's production ready, and that's going to all bubble up to a dashboard, which I'll show you in a second. That's kind of a bird's eye view of the entire project, where you can see exactly where everything is. Because I just find I was always feeling like just lost. Like, okay, so why isn't this being done yet? Oh, there's some issues. Oh, what are the issues? And tracking, and how far along are you on that? And how much more before we can get to production? And so that's something to try to make the project manager's life a little bit easier. I'll show you that.
Now, Ian, what actually really happens is the project manager dumps it on the instructional designer, who then assumes the project management role and suffers.
It's true. It's true.
It really is.
I wonder, isn't part of that just because they can't touch? They can't reach out and touch stuff. Like, what are they going to do? Go through all the slides, read all the comments?
Right.
Yeah. Ian, so you have the workflow for the individual slides, but also an overall workflow.
Yeah. So I'll just pop back up to the top here. We'll go into the activity. So I'm viewing activity, and what we're looking at here. I've loaded up a new screen. I'm not sure if you're tracking in real time with me here.
Yep, it's actually keeping up.
Okay, so this is for a course. I've got a few lessons in this course. And what you're seeing here, each one of these items is a lesson. And within the lesson, each of these boxes represents a step in the workflow. And the workflow could be whatever. We've made one up that I happen to use, but it could, we could, every project sometimes has different workflow depending on what's available and who's available and things like that. So we got like not started, storyboarding, and then production ready and in production slide ready. And what we're seeing here is the number of slides in that state. So this lesson right now has 4 slides. 2 are not started, 1 is in storyboarding, and 1 is production ready. And if I want to see what that is, I can actually go back very easily and jump to the slide. So I can actually from here load that slide up from the workflow system. And I can also see how long something has been in that state. So, if I go down to this one here, I can see that there's 2 slides, and one has been there 2 months. And I find as a project manager, it's sort of, you're constantly trying to figure out what's getting stuck and who do I have to shake a stick at, right? Who needs encouragement? What problem needs solved so that we can go forward? So the idea here is that, okay, I see that there's something wrong here, and usually there'll be a comment. So if something is stuck, there's going to be some sort of comments. In this case, okay, someone doesn't get this part. So this is on a graphic. So he's too geeky. He looks too angry, right? So we're having a problem here about just a graphic of a guy, and the idea is that I should be able then to jump in and figure out what is actually going on, and resolve it, or do whatever it takes to get it resolved. So that's one view of a project, is that we can see all the bits as they go through the workflow. And I hadn't shown this. I'm just going to pop over to a different browser here. Whoops. Is that we also have a media requests tab, so that we can see all of the media requests that have been made. I find often storyboards and media requests end up being kind of like two documents that are linked to each other. Mm-hmm. And so you got your storyboard over here, and your media request goes off to someone else. And the moment they're split, they have to come back together at some point. So that's why we decided to sort of do media requests inline in the pages themselves, and then be able to track. So if you're a media person, you'd be able to come over here and see the status of all. These are all the different media requests that have been made, and from here jump back to the slide as well.
So for example, could you use that to, in most cases, if you're a one-person developer, that's one thing. But when you're working in a team where you have graphic artists, you've got instructional designers, maybe authors who develop the actual courseware, could you send something like this out? Because right now we're sending, for example, Word docs or PowerPoint docs, which have the same kind of thing. We need to build out these graphics.
Yeah.
You could send that out to the graphic design team, and they could work off of that to build, right, for each slide?
Exactly. So as you're developing a slide, you would just make your graphics request in line. You might assign someone, or you might leave it unassigned. It could either be a push system where I know someone's in my system and I want to assign them, or maybe it's a pull system where you might have, let's say that you had a lead visual designer who wants to just, come in the morning and say, oh, okay, we got a whole bunch of new unassigned graphics. Here are our unassigned graphics, and I'm going to take a look at it and decide who should get it and assign it out to them. And what's neat about it is when they do come back with something, when they do submit, it's going to come back and be in the storyboard itself. So they're going to link back to the storyboard with their graphic. We'll see the graphic, and it won't be somewhere in a folder, and I have to figure out which is which. So it's the theme is really about trying to bring things back together, so that there's a singular, there's one place where everything happens, but then we've got different ways of communicating in there with comments, different ways of bringing in different people through things like media requests, or having workflow on comments to resolve things, and just trying to reduce the confusion of having, because you're right, if you're a one-person show where it's just you and you alone, I personally would just build stuff. I would just do it.
Right.
Wouldn't need to coordinate with anybody. Wouldn't need to. I just do it. I would do it in a Word doc, and I do it all right there.
Unless you have a split personality, then it's tough.
That's right. You wear different hats, but I find in projects, and especially projects where you are collaborating. Whoa, I'm sorry. I just sent us down the pipe there. Ones where you're collaborating with other people, and those people might be in other places, different continents and different time zones. It just gets harder and harder to make sense of things and communicate your design intent, and make sure things are followed. So, yeah. So that's what
there's
we're
another thing I see here that could be extremely valuable, and that's as you're building storyboards, and a lot of times you want to show a client or a user or a SME part of what you're building before you go through the whole thing. This would be easy because otherwise you're running around with a lot of Word docs flying around all the place. And for review, you're constantly sending Word docs out. People aren't reviewing them. They're not updating the reviews. It's just a mess. And so this actually keeps everything nice and clean. So would you call this kind of a script management system almost, or a storyboard management system? What would you call this?
It is a storyboard management system and a collaboration system with an embedded workflow. Some of these types of things have been applied to other domains, and I think some of if you're doing software development, for instance, software development is now done using repositories and systems for setting up your work and workflow, so you can easily see what is planned and what is in work and what is done. And it's sort of like this world of instructional development kind of got left out of that, or it just hasn't happened in that world yet, where to a great extent where you can have a shared development space and task management and workflow. It's happened very much in software, because software you couldn't develop without those things. You couldn't develop well. But I feel like we've sort of pulled through in the storyboard and instructional development world. But I just couldn't stand it any longer. It was driving me nuts. The amount of work and the amount of overhead actually reduces your ability to be creative.
I totally agree, because I would say this is probably the biggest gap that we've had in the 21 years we've been a company doing e-learning development. It's been our biggest headache, bar none. It's not the development of the product. It's getting it to the point where people want to accept the product to be developed.
Right.
There's so many places where things fall apart that are misunderstood from the external client to the internal teams, because Word and PowerPoint, like I said, just aren't the best tools for that. I mean, they work, but they don't work well. It's a torturous project. Oh, here we go. We're starting a new project. I can't wait.
It takes the fun out of it.
It does.
Yeah.
Ian,
yes.
You do have like a dashboard where people can log in and say, let's say one person is waiting for somebody else to do something and finish something, and he can't continue until that's finished. So can he or she just log into the dashboard and check?
That's the idea of the dashboard that I just showed there, was that you can see why, you're somewhere on the chain, if you're the copy editor or the QA guy or whatever, and you're waiting for work, and this whole sort of flow management, especially, you run a company and you've got people waiting for work, and it's just not coming, and they're waiting, and they're spooling, and they're getting angry. And so the idea that you can visually see, there's a whole bunch of things in the step right before mine. It's a whole bunch of stuff is about to come ready. And here's the reasons that it's not done yet. Maybe you can see the comments of what we're waiting on. But also, because we're looking at things like when you do a PowerPoint or a Word thing and send it off, that's your one shot in a way. It's like, this is how it is today, and it's in this document, and I'm sending it to you, but you kind of have to be careful, because you don't want to overload them with okay, now I did another page, I'm sending it to you again. So you have to sort of send these batches carefully. Whereas now that we're in the cloud and that we're able to look at things on a slide or frame level, you could have different people looking at different aspects at the same time. So if I finish the first 4 pages, I'm not saying it would be right on every project, but a subject matter expert could go and review and review those pages and give comments, and maybe allow them to go to the next step, rather than waiting for the whole thing to be done. A copy editor could review, the 8 pages that are ready now, instead of waiting for the whole thing to be done. So there's also a kind of linearization, if that's a word, of the work. That's possible. Pardon me?
Declutterization.
Declutterization. I like that. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess we're trying to build a new model of work, of this kind of work, and a new way to collaborate with people, so that, ideally for me, what it means is that by taking away some of the friction of collaboration, we can either bring down some of the development ratios, because I find the ratios, when you look at where the hours are, it's not in the creative part, it's not in the the actual design, it's in the overhead for the design, it's in the communication and logistics, where a lot of the time gets lost. So that's
it must be a
huge
time saver.
I hope so. I think so. I mean, we're using it now on projects, and we're already seeing that it's taken out tasks and time that we would have otherwise been consumed with. Yeah.
So at this point, when is this? I think you said you're using it with some clients. It's kind of on a. Would you say you're at beta or past beta at this point?
I wouldn't know what exactly to call it. We are being careful about building something that is solid, but that doesn't necessarily, like, if you had to choose between having all the features in the world that you want and having solid code, we're on the solid code side.
Okay.
And but adding features as we go through use. So we're really at the phase of I think you just showed the screen for the website. So
yes.
It's not out there. You can't go and log on today, but we are inviting people to sign up for an early access program where they'd be able to get in and try it out and give us feedback, because what we really want to do is stay close to actual needs. And hit the biggest problems first, and hit the annoying things first, and some things, it's, as you go and a new feature request comes up, some things are really surprisingly easy to do, and some things are surprisingly hard to do. So, just a few weeks ago, one of the requests that I put in was, I find when I work with other designers, very often you say, on a certain type of page, maybe it's a page with just some rollovers and summary text, and I only want them to write maximum 3 lines of text. And there's a classic problem I find. Very often you give something out and you get back and someone's ignored that, and they've written a page of text for everything. And it doesn't work in the template, and you've got to go back and rework it or split it into multiple pages and do rework. So we just added a feature, for instance, where as a lead designer could, in a template, define exactly how many characters are either suggested or actually enforced, if you want to be really a control freak, in a text box. So I might have a text box and say, okay, we want about maximum 1,000 characters in here, and then it would either warn you or actually stop you from writing more. So we're at the phase now where we want to share with people who are willing to come in and check it out and provide feedback so that we can make it a better product.
I'm frozen, so I don't know if my...
You're frozen? Did you freeze again? Oh my gosh, I think she froze again.
Okay.
No, but that's fine.
Something must be going on. Do you have bad weather in Colorado today?
No, beautiful sunshine.
Weird. Yeah, we're about to rain, but that shouldn't do. Well, you never know. Southern California could do it. But Ian, we are pretty much at the end of our time, and this is great. I really like what you guys are doing, the approach you're taking.
It is just amazing. I mean, Ian, you've said before that when you start a new project, that you like to look at performance gaps in companies, and you've really taken that a whole new direction, and you've found a performance gap within the process of creating e-learning courses.
Yes, yeah, that's an interesting way to think about it. We're sort of turning that whole performance mindset on the learning development process itself. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ian, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you and learn more about Xunto and what you're doing?
You could write to Ian@Xunto.io or info@Xunto.io. And of course, there's the website. Xunto.io has just basically a sign-up form at this point to be, if you either want to be informed when we go live, or if you're a little bit braver and want to jump in on a beta program to test it out.
Is there a link from your Instructio website over to Xunto?
I think, yeah, we've been showing it. We've been showing it. It's on the lower third. In fact, I'll show it again right now. Here we go. So there you go.
Yeah, we'd love to have people who are interested in I think just trying it out, either kicking the tires or actually trying it on a small project. We're not there today, but we will be soon, and so it's an open invitation.
That sounds
Nice.
great. Well, Ian, appreciate you coming on the show. We hope to have you back on again, showing us new stuff and the evolution.
Yeah.
And I'm dying to see when the product gets released, because I could see us using it for one among others. It's just got a lot of features that we want. I could see it because, like I said, we're in Word and PowerPoint hell right now, and it's not fun.
It's a special plane of hell, isn't
It's a special place. Oh man, do we have bad karma somewhere? But no, we really appreciate you coming on. I think this was great to see all the things that you guys are doing, and we look forward to seeing you back on the show again. And say hello to Yves for us. He is your business partner on this. He's the programmer,
Indeed.
isn't he? Yep.
He is.
Yeah, he's a bright guy.
And a black belt at that.
And a black belt at that. That's right.
Ooh.
So anyway, well, everyone, if you have any more interest in the product, please send Ian a note, and also send us a note. Let us know what you think about the show and about Xunto. I think it's got a lot of potential for the future and for now. Well, I think we all need it. Ian, we'll see you next time. Linda, as always,
right.
have a great weekend coming up real soon. Take care, everyone.
Thanks.
We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Ian. Bye, Rick.
Bye-bye.